අයිබෝන් කොහොමද? හොඳින් කියලා හිතනවා. Today I thought of sharing some knowledge on payments. Do you all know how much of a percentage would cost for cash printing in Sri Lanka? Any guesses? Do you think it's considerable compared to how much we spend for our education in our country? Yes, you are correct. That is considerable, guys. Compared to other countries in the region even, Sri Lanka is at the bottom of the usage of digital payments. So it's very important that we get our knowledge and get used to the digital payments, because if you take the how much of cash, how much of money we spent on cash printing is something even bigger than we expect. There is something like 3% from our GDP. So compared to how much we spend on our education, that is considerably high. So if we can find ways to reduce that cost, how much we spend on cash printing, that could be indirectly used in a useful context like education. Okay, so that kind of a context that I built on how I'm going to introduce payments. So this is going to be a very basic introduction about payment, guys. As we go on, we will look at each segments of payments, and yes, of course, the content will be complex in the coming videos. Okay, but for today, let's take a look at what are the payments. Okay, so simply අපසිංහලෙන් කිව්වොත් ඒක ගෙවීමක්. Okay, so if we kind of break down what is a real payment, it is a transfer of value. Okay, so we need to take out, it is not going to be only in cash. Okay, the payment method is not going to be cash. We need to talk about payments, because what we are going to do is transfer our value from one party to another party. So when I talk about that party, could be a country, it could be a company, it could be an individual person like you and me, it could be a bigger organization like banks as well. Okay, so one point is it is a transfer of value, and the other thing is there's a financial obligation behind that. Simply, we settle payments to fulfill a financial obligation like a purchase of good or services. So that is the main purpose of behind making payments. Okay, so if we dive a little bit deep, if you think how we make payments in simple terms, it can be cash or non-cash. So you might be confused. How are we paying without cash? Yes, most of the time, basically in Sri Lanka, as I told you earlier, this is comparatively low. There's a lot to be done as a country to improve these kind of payment methods. So when I talk about non-cash instruments, we have mainly checks, RTGS, slips, and payment cards. And there are many more like e-wallets, mobile application, internet banking, so much more that we can talk about non-cash instruments that we use in here, Sri Lanka. And the other thing is this payment ecosystem or the payment domain in here, Sri Lanka, is regulated and supervised. And sometimes CBSL take the role as facilitating these transactions. Okay, so as we go on, I will teach you how CBSL regulate, supervise and facilitate these non-cash transaction, as well as CBSL supervise or regulate cash transactions as well. Okay, so if I'm going to explain a little bit more how CBSL regulate or supervise these non-cash instruments in Sri Lanka, is CBSL is introducing acts, and sometimes on acts they will be issuing directions, or they will be issuing some circulation. So if you take these acts, directions, circulars, everything basically in simple terms, these are the communication methods CBSL is using to regulate, supervise Sri Lanka's payment instruments. Okay, so thought of giving you guys some insights how much of cash is in circulation in Sri Lanka. That is well over 1.19 trillion. 1.19 trillion cash in value in circulation in Sri Lanka at the end of 2023 last quarter. Okay, at the end of last quarter 2023, there was something like 1.19 trillion cash in circulation in Sri Lanka.
Just to give you a little bit of understanding how much of money is in circulation in the society and in the banks. So if you take something like 3 parts are in banks, and if you take something like 9 parts of it is in circulation among you and me. Okay, so in banks 3 parts, and in the normal society something like 9 parts. Okay, so that's how much of money is held by bank, and something like 9 parts is in circulation in the country.
So at the beginning I gave you this amount, guys. Out of GDP, something like 3% is being used for printing cash, basically, in Sri Lanka. When I talk about print, it's not only printing cash, to produce those coins. That cost overall is 3% from GDP. So that is very important, guys, to realize. If we can promote as a society, if we can get used to these payment terms or payment instruments in Sri Lanka, we can reduce this much. Let's imagine if we can reduce this to 1%, 2% can be gone into perhaps for education. So in the coming videos, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you more knowledge, insights with regard to checks, RTGS, slips, cards. So keep in touch with me. Okay. Yes, my name is Dimal Pereira. So my main ambition is to introduce some basic knowledge so that you will be find your path in the future. Okay, so if you take, guys, checks, RTGS, slips, cards, those are different in their ways how they behave in the market. If you take checks, cards and some other payment instruments, they will have different legs in their transaction circle. And if you take RTGS, the banks and the community use RTGS as a high value transaction method because it's real, available වෙනවා and it's gross asset එක වෙනම සිදුවෙන transaction එකක්. So if you take how we execute these payment instruments in, there's much more knowledge that I can share with you guys. Okay, so bye for now. Thank you very much for listening.